Welcome back to another episode of the Building Belmont podcast, Belmont Neighbors and Beyond. Recently, we shared that our friends and partners, Complete Kids, have begun operating their clinic out of the old Belmont Middle School, the back area specifically, which will be their Complete Kids headquarters and clinic for their multiple location mission. But we're sad to say that they've experienced some vandalization recently in the middle school, and they asked for our help. They asked for your help. They're offering a $5,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of those who committed the act. So if you have any information, email us, connect@buildingbelmont.com, and we'll put you in touch with the investigating officer. With that being said, thank you for your help, and Complete Kids, thank you for your partnership. I hope you enjoy this episode, and happy 4th of July week. In this episode, we're introducing you to Vince Hill, and for some of you, he needs no introduction, and for others, you're really going to be blessed by making a connection with him in this conversation today. We discuss everything from what it was like for Vince growing up in the area to his experience when he was a junior in high school, experiencing integration from Reed High School into South Point High School, and to how he built his business and became a real estate owner in downtown Belmont, to include the building that is now occupied by Everyday Market. Vince formerly occupied the building with Caravan Coffee, some of you may remember. And this is a longer episode than usual. We really got into a great time having an awesome conversation, a very genuine conversation, he and I. And we were set up outside of his building at the Everyday Market. So of course we had some special guests here downtown joining us, including the train. So forgive the noise, but I hope you enjoy this episode.
What did that mean to you when you went from being raised in this area where you and your family and your friends and people that look like you could only go into that park one night a week, and now here you are owning a building in that same downtown, putting on events to bring people together, and looking down at that park and seeing that every person from every background was there spending time together in community? What did that mean to you to see that? Did you ever have a moment where you looked out and reflected on that? What was downtown Belmont like when you started your business here and when you came into the community? Because I've known enough to know it has not always been the bustling little area that it is right now.
It was dead as a dodo.
Yeah?
Whatever that term means. It was deader than all get out. There was no businesses down here. There was a few things going on, but for the most part, what you see right now was not it. You know, I could stand right here and count the cars on one hand that was going up and down the street. I would stand in that window right there, that picture window, and look out because I hadn't put any windows in, nor had I put anything inside. Mm-hmm. But I was just standing looking at the traffic, and I was like, what the heck have I done? You know, buying this, because this building here was what I bought initially, where the bakery was. Mm-hmm. And this part where the coffee shop was just vacant, empty. No windows, no doors, no electrical, no water, no nothing. So the first thing I did was had windows put in. Once I had windows put in, I was able to tape them up and say, hey, coming soon. Pique your curiosity.
Yeah.
Coming soon. What is coming soon? Well, whatever I decide to do. But, you know, at the time, coffee shops were extremely popular in, like, California, Colorado, places far west. And it always moved east toward New York. And then it would trickle down this way, on toward Florida and everything. But
so when you bought the building, you didn't have the coffee shop in mind yet? It was just the bakery?
I had not. I didn't even have the bakery in mind. Yeah, my wife always baked. And she was baking at the house. And I call myself a pretty good cook. So this one day I was frying chicken, but I go in this bin to get what I thought was flour and seasoned it and did all this and started my grease going and everything. As soon as I put the chicken in the grease, it just says, it was powdered sugar. It was sweet chicken, you know. It was sweet chicken. I said, this can't go on like this. This cannot go on like this because I'm seeing powdered sugar everywhere, and cake everywhere. So I said, well, let's just kind of look around, see if we can find somewhere that we can put somewhere for you to do your thing. So riding through Belmont one afternoon, I saw this building was for sale. So I proceeded to call the lady that was in charge of it, talk to her. From that point on, things proceeded to progress to the point to where we became owners of this business in 1999. So we started working on it, or I did start working on it in the year 2000. Doing a lot of the renovation in here myself and doing a lot of the decorations and whatever needed to be done, I did it myself. And that's where it all began.
Wow.
So I said, you know, I need to do something with this. What, I have no idea, but like I said, when I started seeing all of the popularity of coffee shops in California and areas west, I said, you know, that might be an okay thing for here.
So what did exist at that time in 1999, 2000 as far as coffee shops? What were the coffee options? There weren't coffee
There were
shops?
none.
Really?
There were
Okay.
none.
It's hard to imagine now. Of course, I was born in 93.
Uh-huh.
So I give my age away a lot
Yeah,
here is
yeah.
that, you know, there's always been, and I come from a real small town, but there was still a coffee shop, you know, and now the nearest Starbucks was 30 minutes away in another town across the New Mexico-Colorado border. But I mean,
Really?
coffee shops were always a thing. So
We
it's hard
had
to
none.
imagine it.
We had none. The closest, my wife and I would visit coffee shops that we found out about, like in D.C., in parts of Virginia, and we would ride to wherever we heard that there was a coffee shop. And we would go there and watch the progress. How is it operating? What are they doing? What can I do better, or what can I do differently to draw people in to a small town like this that, you know, it was challenging. It was challenging. Some people would ask about a cup of coffee. God, the coffee costs that much? I could buy a whole 5-pound can of Maxwell House for that.
Wow.
But they weren't seeing the big picture. It's not about the coffee. It's about the camaraderie of people coming together. Back in the old days, they called a coffee house the speakeasy. A speakeasy. So doing a speakeasy, you were able to come in and do open mic. You could come in and talk about subjects that concerned you. And that's how this kind of started off.
So I'm going to add to your intro. We're going to do something different. Usually I'll, you know, say an intro and then we'll record the episode. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to wait till the end to do the intro so I can tell people all the things we're going to talk about. I'm going to add to your intro, Coffee Shop Pioneer. Because now, I mean, literally there are coffee shops on every corner.
Every
We got
corner,
another
everywhere.
one open up down the street here soon. Waterbean Coffee is opening up.
Yeah.
We got Everyday Market. We have the cafe there at Honeycomb. And, you know, it's just so commonplace now that before, was it just, I mean, the history of that and looking into it, what did you feel like when you came into this space and said, I'm going to do a coffee shop? No one's doing that yet. How did that feel for you, knowing that that wasn't something that, like you said, people didn't understand it at the time? Did you feel like you were early? Did you feel like you were right on trend? What did that risk feel like, I guess?
In actuality, I felt like I was a little bit ahead of my time.
Okay.
A little bit. Because because I couldn't find any coffee shops within the general vicinity to pattern from or to talk to. But once I decided what I was going to do, and I started looking around at some of the things that interest me, like the decor in there was totally me. It was totally me. It was based on the Egyptian theme, and the pyramids, the caravan,
Yeah.
caravan being that mechanism that delivered teas and coffees and perfumes and oils and silks and all kind of stuff. So that was the theme that I opened with, the exotic.
I've been here, my wife and I, about 5 years in Belmont, and I remember when it was caravans. So
Okay.
I remember coming into caravan, and people that are here now and that engage with our podcast, everyone knows Everyday Market, but understanding the story, I was so fortunate when I got to meet you that I knew that, yes, I wanted to learn about your story in this business and this building, and all of that was so intriguing to me. But there's also, your story being raised here in the area. You mentioned you were born in Gastonia and later on you moved to Belmont. Let's go back a little bit and we'll work our way forward into the business, I guess, if you will, of your
Okay.
story of this area and how you've seen it evolved, how it was, and feel free to speak as candidly as you'd like. And then, of course, all the way to, and we'll get to this, I won't give a spoiler, of you being able to buy a building that at one point you weren't allowed into.
Yeah.
We'll work our way into that one. But,
Yeah.
what is your story here in the community, and what was that like for you growing up around here?
Growing up around here and going to high school in Belmont, I was able to meet a lot of people that was in my class. But that park right there, Stowe Park, in that day and time, was a very thriving park. It had merry-go-rounds, Ferris wheels, movies in the park, had a dance area. It had a whole lot of stuff, concession. But the bottom line of this was blacks were not allowed to come there but only one night a week, which the debate has been, and I've had arguments about this, well, it was Tuesday night. No, it was Wednesday night. Then I said, well, what the hell difference does it make? It's a non-productive night that we had to totally revamp our whole routine to come here to enjoy ourselves. And from that point on, the park thrived a little while, and then it closed. And once it closed, and there's been reason that I've heard for it to close, but it had a lot to do with the environment of the city at that time. So therefore, the only time that, like I said, that we could come down here and enjoy that park at night was either Tuesday or Wednesday night. No Saturdays, no Sundays, no Fridays afternoons. It was just that one day a week. That puts you in a totally different frame of mind because you know what you're dealing with. And the whole time that I was growing up here and I went to an all-black school, which was Reed High School, which was located in the Reed community, about 3 or 4 miles from here. So I went to an all-black school where everybody in the classroom was somebody that I played with, after school, weekends, whatever. And integration took place in 1966 here. So we were forced to go to what was then Belmont High School. It later changed to South Point, but it was Belmont High School. So I went from an environment where I was one of 26 students in a classroom that I knew, personally knew, they, to an environment to where I was one of 26 people that I had no idea who they were. Had never seen them in my life.
What grade were you in?
I was going into the 10th grade. It was my sophomore year.
Wow.
We finished the 9th grade at Reed High, and I came here in the 10th grade. Sometimes I have very conflicting feelings about that and integration, as a matter of fact, because I was recognized as a student at Reed High. And when we went to Belmont, I wasn't recognized. I could raise you could raise your hand all you want to. It didn't mean anything. You were ignored, so to speak. Things have progressed. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying we were back in the slavery time. You know, it was difficult times for black people here. It was difficult times. But it puts you in this frame of mind as to you knew, oh, here I am, a black man, buying a building downtown on Main Street that was owned and operated by someone that did not allow us in the building. You had to come to this little window right here to get your food. And then some people said there was a door at the back that you had to go to get your food. But no, you wasn't going inside. So as I learned the history of this place and who owned it and their attitude toward my people or me or whatever, it gave me a sense of accomplishment to know that I was able to purchase something that I couldn't go in prior to this. Now, always in the back of your mind, you're saying, well, how is the community going to accept me as a black business owner being downtown?
Yeah.
Well, based on that, I will have to say, as we said prior to that, I have never had a negative experience here in Belmont. And everybody, from the citizens of Belmont to the mayor, to city council, to all of the people that were in prominent positions, they reached out to me and said, come on board. Because as a matter of fact, 3 years after the date that I opened the coffee shop, I was in a Merchants Association meeting, and I was asked at that time, because you know during that time you're looking for a person to be the president. Nobody raised their hand. Nobody. So I heard a voice, and that voice was Ted Hall, who was, president of, yeah. And he said, Vince, why don't you do it? I'm in a room full of people. What am I? Nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I said, okay, I'll try it. And once I accepted that position, a very, very good friend of mine, Neil Brock, that owns Nationwide Insurance, his office was right there. He said, I will help you all I can. And he stood by me through the whole thing because I had some idea of, let's do a Friday night live. Let's do what Charlotte was doing. Friday Night Live. Oh, you mean to tell me you're going to have a band downtown? Where you going to put them? Well, I put them right there,
Right in front of Everyday Market.
right where that car is right now. That was where the stage was. Now, what was I thinking? Because I know here's the park, but see, the park is not, at that time, to me, was not conducive. Sometimes you have that situation.
Yeah.
It's not conducive to what I had in mind. So I went to city council and I talked about the possibilities of having a Friday Night Live downtown Belmont on Main Street. It was like, oh, yeah, sure.
So everyone now listening, understanding it is Friday Night Live season, right? Our first one got rained out,
Yeah.
but the founder of Friday Night Live is sitting here right here with us right now, Vince Hill.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Great idea.
Exactly. You know, when I did it, I was fortunate enough to be able to contact General Johnson and the chairman of the board, who was the beach music band. They started it. They were very popular at the time. But he also had a booking agency, so I was able to work with Ken Knox, who has the chairman of the board and the executives. So anyway, we talked about the possibilities of doing this and having a band. So we talked, and he worked with me in bringing 3 of the bigger bands in the area: General Johnson, the Tams, Maurice Williams and the Zodiac. And we had 3 bands that night. And everybody was saying, oh man, what you gonna do if nobody comes? I said, I hadn't thought about that. I don't think in that direction. I think on the positive. And that night, that very night, there was almost 3,000 people here in the street, dancing to the band, enjoying themselves. And from that moment on, it was Katie bar the door, because it was off. It was off to the races. Who are you going to have next week?
Yeah.
Who are you going to have now? Okay, can we have more than 3 events? Sure, if we had the money.
Yeah.
But no money was offered. No money was offered. So we had to, if you talk about walking out on faith, I had to hope, pray, and everything else that goes with it, that we made enough money off selling beer in my parking lot to pay the band. And we would squeak by every night. Squeak. You hear me squeak by. We were in the back of my building counting change and dollar bills and $5 bills, hoping that I could accumulate enough money to pay that band. And when that happened, everybody saw the dream. Let's do it big time. Let's do it.
What year was this?
This was probably around the year of 2007, 8, or 9.
Okay.
Oh, they let anybody downtown know. So, from that point on, we had the undying support of the city, because we were bringing people from as far as Spartanburg, South Carolina, Columbia, and as far north as some places in Virginia. They had heard about us. So we were pulling people from everywhere. And being a people person like I am, a lot of people would find out who I was and come to the coffee shop that Saturday morning. And we would talk. And lo and behold, I'd see him another week or two later. We have closed on a house here in Belmont. We love this place. There's no other place like this in Gaston County or Mecklenburg County. There's no other place like this. We love the camaraderie of the city. We love the activities that the city is putting on.
Yeah.
You get me right
Yeah,
there?
absolutely.
The city is putting on. It's okay. Let it happen. Let them have it. I don't need accolades and all of this. I know within myself what I have been able to do, and I see where it went. So if you want credit, here it is.
Yeah.
Have at it.
Well, I think, being able to learn more about your story, and as I said, I was very excited to get to talk to you about some of the things that I already knew that you shared with me, but even that, the legacy of Friday Night Live, we can trace it now back to Vince Hill. And you've said a couple of times, you said community, when you were thinking about the coffee shop, that, hey, the real drive of coffee shops is community, and it's still the case today.
Still the case.
And in the same way, when you were talking about bringing people together for Friday Night Live, it was the community. There was a vision for the community. Even if you had to scrape together whatever money you could to even pay the band one evening, you had this vision. Tell me about what that vision was. As you were here downtown Belmont, like you said, deader than a doornail at that time, what was the vision that you had for it, and do you think that we're living in that vision now? Is it fulfilled?
We are living the dream right now, my dream. Now, I'm not taking credit for all of this that you see. That's the last thing that I want people to take from this. But the dream was to give people things to do on the weekends. Not a Saturday night, but a Friday night where people want something to do. They want somewhere to go. They want to feel safe. I'm downtown. The park right across the street. We had a deal with the police department at that time that they would monitor things here, show a presence here. Of course, we had to pay for it. It wasn't no freebie. You hear that? It wasn't a freebie. But the things that it allowed us to do was parents can come to Friday Night Live and bring their children. And they could play in the park because we had police protection there. Families felt safe. They could come right up here, have a beer, listen to the music, dance, do whatever they wanted to. And they knew that their children were playing in the park under police supervision. Mm-hmm. So we never had an incident of any type under those conditions.
What did that mean to you when you went from being raised in this area where you and your family and your friends and people that look like you could only go into that park one night a week, and now here you are owning a building in that same downtown, putting on events to bring people together, and looking down into that park and seeing that every person from every background was there spending time together in community? What did that mean to you to see that? Did you ever have a moment where you looked out and reflected on that?
When you talk about an aha moment, I could stand right here in front of my building and watch everything that was taking place, and I could watch the camaraderie of the people that were here, people that were in the park, and it was a sense of pride for me, because it wasn't like, okay, I'll show you. But it was. Mm-hmm. I'll show you. Yeah. I'll show you what we can do. Because the outlook or the way people looked back then at the at blacks was you don't have the capability or the information to do something of that caliber. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll show you. And I did.
You know, there's a spirit that exists in this community that it you really have to pay attention or have some intentional conversations like this with different people to understand it. But it's palpable and it's real, where it's this place that cares about connection and community, and it's so deep rooted in all of those things we can't ignore. You know, understate the history of this area, it being the South. You know. But also understanding that there is that spirit that says, like you did, that, hey, I care about bringing people together. I care about connecting people. I care about community. And in the same way, right now it's Friday, 1:30 p.m., and we've been sitting here for about, 45 minutes, and we've had at least 100 people walk by us at this point, sitting out here. So it is that area that is about connection and it is about community. And so knowing that, there was a heart and there was a spirit like yours that existed in a time where that wasn't encouraged. It wasn't encouraged to connect with people that weren't like you, and yet you still did it anyway.
Yeah.
So I just really admire your story. And at the same time, things are, so charged in this day and age, but who we don't get to hear as much from, and we really do need to be asking questions, and we really do need to be hearing their story, are the people that actually lived through those times. Mm-hmm. People will speculate and they'll be angry for another person, and they'll just cause further divide instead of sitting down and connecting with someone and understanding, well, what does the redemption look like? What does it look like to connect and be a bridge for people? And I'll tell you, I'm born and raised in New Mexico, and being in New Mexico, and of course everything far west, one of my best friends that I met later on in my 20s, he was in my wedding, I was in his. He's actually from Brattonsville, over here by Rock Hill. And Brattonsville was where his family was from. That was where his family worked a plantation. And when his grandparents were kids, his great-grandparents, or his grandpa was a kid, his great-grandparents moved them out to California. Mm-hmm. So he was born in Los Angeles. When I moved to Charlotte, I had no idea that one of my best friends at the time was actually from here until the summer came around and he was coming out for a family reunion. Yeah. So it was interesting in understanding that, hey, people went to the West because it wasn't like it was over here. Uh-huh. So part of that, being raised in New Mexico, you hear about integration or these things that our country has gone through, our history, and it feels so far away because in New Mexico it just wasn't like that. It was so far removed. It didn't exist. Yeah. And then you move here, and I'm having a conversation with someone who lived through it, and I've been here for 5 years now, and it's just a different, as this semi passes by, we let them pass by. It's a different element, and it's a different spirit, and I really want to have the conversation with you and getting to hear from you. Like I said, everyone wants to be very highly offendable in this time. And, something that I've learned in my short life is that offense is inevitable. Offense will happen. But being offended is a choice. Yeah. People will do things that are offensive, but you have the choice to say, am I going to be offended by that? Yeah. And that's where I really connected with you. When you told me the story of this window, I had no idea. And now anytime I like to have friends or family or anyone in the area, I tell them the story of this window because that's part of your legacy in saying that was an offense. But instead of choosing to be offended, I'm going to show that, hey, that's a part of our redemption. That's a part of our story. That's a part of our history. So tell me the story. Tell us the story of this window and what it means to you when you see it now being the owner of the building.
This window to me means a changing of the guard. Things aren't like they used to be. When I look at this window, knowing that we weren't allowed inside the building. And I had a gentleman that come into the coffee shop one day and we were talking and he said, if the guy that owned this building knew what was happening right now, he would roll in his grave. That told me everything. That told me everything. Sometimes you have to be careful what you say, how you say it, and the context, tense in which you say it. Because sometimes you can unfold a complete story behind everything that has happened. Just like that. To tell me that the person that owned this building would be rolling in his grave, that tells me who he was. who his clientele was, who the people that knew about it was, and they understood and recognized the fact that this ain't supposed to be happening. Not in here. You know, you're not allowed anymore. So for you to own this, there's a glitch in the matrix somewhere here, you know? That ain't supposed to happen. But then you have those people that understands the situation and are willing to say, that's not me. That's not what I think. This is what I think. I'm happy for you. And I wish you the best of luck. I was standing out front of this building one day. And this guy comes down the street in an old beat-up truck with a gun rack in the back. Say no more. I need to say no more. To myself, I was thinking, okay, here it comes. What you doing? Tell him I'm gonna put a coffee shop in here. Oh, well, I wish you the best of luck. And he just went on down the street, and I'm standing here like in a fight or flight mode. You know, am I gonna have to get into an altercation?
Yeah.
There was nothing close to an altercation. It was a congratulations. I'm happy for you. And I wish you the best of luck. That turned me around right there. That turned me around. So I was able to get rid of the negative feelings that I may have had, or the potential of what could have taken place. That took me out of that game. That put me in a new game. And I enjoyed playing it. Because now I'm giving you something to do with your town. I'm giving you somewhere to go. My wife had the bakery next door. Everybody knew her. Everybody wanted some of her cakes and pies and cookies and this and that and the other. So everybody knew. So you're Mr. Brenda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that too.
Brenda's husband.
Yeah, Brenda's her husband. So, saying all that to say this, I had every reason given to me to appreciate, understand, and work with the attitudes of the people here in the community, because it was nothing like you would have thought. It was the total opposite. Total opposite.
Was that surprising to you?
It was. Because I was geared.
Yeah.
I was geared to fight. I was geared to put up with a whole lot of stuff that I wasn't happy with. But if there's a fight to come, I'm here. I'll fight. I'll do whatever is necessary to accomplish what I see that I want to do. I see my dream. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I was able to talk to some very, very intelligent people that had the wherewithal and the foresight to see what I was doing, to say, we with you. We're with you. Mm-hmm. We're with you.
You mentioned that your experience as a business owner in Belmont, although you, like you said, you were geared to expect one thing, which no one would, assume anything different. You were raised in this area. You had gone through all of the segregation and division and hate in this area. And at the same time, when you stepped in as a business owner and you purchased this building, that wasn't the experience. And I'm just talking to you like I'm talking to a friend and someone that I want to learn from. I'm just curious to know why, that same some of those people were raised here too, where there was that separation, segregation, and hate and division. And at the same time, they took you in, and it wasn't the experience you expected. So, what do you think was happening in their heart that they said, Vince is my friend or my colleague, or even Ted saying, hey, you should lead that thing, that moved in them to change their hearts as well? Or I don't want to say change. It's not like I'm saying any of these people were hateful, but they experienced it too, some of these people that had been around for some time.
I truly believe that when you step back and you look at the situation from whatever position you're in, if you have a consciousness and a heart, you know that wasn't right. None of this was right. How can I rectify or help someone rectify what had been done, and do it without question, without, can I back this guy, or can he do this? And I will say the one person that stayed in my corner was Ted Hall. He stayed in my corner all the time. All the time. Well, Vince, what are we going to do here? What can we do here? What about this? What about this? He valued my opinion. And I'll never forget that. But, like I said, if you have a heart and if you have a consciousness, you know what's right and what's wrong. You know, they say that the valuable lesson in life is to do or to know what to do and what not to do. That's a lesson in life. And I think that lesson was taught. This is what you do. You extend the hand. You extend the olive branch. Hi. As you can tell, this
Yes, sir.
touches me at times.
Yes, sir. Ted is one of those people, and if you all don't know Ted, I believe he founded the Belmont Chamber of Commerce that later on went on to become the Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce. It still exists today. Ted's a writer, realtor, but an overall great person. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Ted, and I'm just not surprised at all to know that he was someone that was in your corner and had your back, and that's just Ted's heart. So, Ted, we love you. I know that Ted actually likes to listen to this podcast. So, if anyone else is not listening, I know that Ted is, but there is that. Obviously, it is it has an effect on you, and Ted is someone that extended his hand. Who else maybe comes to mind that you want to remember or honor or share their name that you had in your corner, or maybe even people that you extended your hand to?
I have to give a lot of credit to the then mayor of Belmont, Richard Boyce. God, this is the mayor. I'm talking to the mayor, and the mayor is conversing with me on a subject that's going to enhance his city, and bring new people to his city. I think he saw the vision, because when you bring people to a city and you have something that's nowhere else, people want a part of it. They want to be a part of it. And I think for him, the city council, and everybody else, they saw that, hey, this is a lot of activity starting to happen here because of this. In that same time frame, my wife and I, along with my daughter, we started Christmas at the Caravan. Christmas at the Caravan. And that was done on a Friday night as well. Maybe I'm hooked on that Friday. I love Friday nights.
Yeah, you love Friday nights.
Yeah. But we had horse and buggy rides here, right here. Train rides, the little train rides. And we had entertainment from Foursquare Church. They had their band to come here and play right here in my parking lot with a wide screen sitting on the top of my building, showing it throughout the city. So everybody coming down the street was watching this band as they played. And everything that was taking place came out of my pocket. And I felt like it was the biggest investment that I could put into the city. And to this day, they still have what they call, I don't know what, Christmas in Belmont, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started that in probably 2006.
What does legacy mean to you?
It means everything, especially in this day and age where you can spit in a cup and tell who all of your ancestors were and what they did and what they went through. My grandfather was a sharecropper right up New Hope Road. And to a certain extent, that's one step above slavery, just outside of slavery. But the legacy is what I come from and what can I do to show my ancestors I'm listening. I'm listening. And I'm here to do whatever is necessary to continue your legacy, however that happens. And the legacy for me is to leave my grandchildren this. I talk to them about it every single day. Every single day. I said, don't you dare sell this when I'm gone. Don't you dare. If anything, expand upon it. Or if anything, buy something else. Do something else. Let me inspire you to do more. Do more. Just do more.
How do you feel you've honored your ancestors' legacy?
Simply by doing what I have done.
Yes, sir.
Starting things, leading things, trying to be a leader in the community, and trying to show people that not only do I have the ability to do what I'm doing, but we all as a race have the ability to do anything that we are allowed or given permission to do. We can do it. There's so many young people here in Belmont that I admire so much, because they are doing things. Good example, and I hate to call names, but
This is your platform. You do what you want. The Logans, Juan Logan, the artist, has done a lot of stuff. Yeah.
His son has fitness place at what is that?
Luray.
Luray Mill. He is doing it. He is doing it. And Juan has opened a studio right up here where the haunted mill was. And they're still doing things. And so from that point, and based on that point, we are capable of doing anything under God's sun. Anything. Anything.
It's it's all full circle. I've been talking about the spirit that exists in this community that is willing to reach out and lend a hand or to create space. That's something I've really been leaning into more, and I'll tell you more about that off camera. You all are gonna have to wait to hear this story, but there's a legacy of creating space in this community, and it's divine that you say John Logan, because John Logan was one of the first people that I met moving to North Carolina. John. And I moved here to work for Elevation Church here in Gaston County. And I said, well, I'm not going to live in Charlotte and then go work in Gaston County. We're going to live in Gaston County. So we rented a place, sight unseen, moved out here in 3 weeks near downtown Gastonia, and I needed a gym. So started going to a Luray Athletic Club and ended up meeting John. And I remember I was underneath a weight, and John is the kind of guy, he'd walk around, show love to everyone. He's big and strong, but he's absolute teddy bear, heart of gold, right?
Yeah.
And I was underneath 225 pounds on an incline bench, and I pushed for one more rep, and it was coming back down on me. And I just see John's big paw, like the hand of God, just coming over me. He pulls it off of me, and that was the first time we really started talking and engaging, and so began a friendship that I really admired him, what he was doing and building his business, and for some reason he took me in as a friend, and so we spent a lot of time. Every time I went to work out, almost daily, we'd end up staying late or coming early to have conversation, and I told him I had a vision of starting a business one day, and he told me, well, okay, when's that day going to be? And he starts encouraging me, and he's someone that started to share that, hey, you're someone that has it in you, and the longer you wait, the more that fire is going to build, and you're going to want to do it anyway, so you might as well take action on it. Hey, Saul.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Saul, you know Vince?
I love this guy. He's one of the first people I ever met in Belmont.
Oh, man, that's a good one to be introduced. No, come on in. Look, now you're on the podcast. Now
I
you're
love
on.
you, man. It's been a
I'm
long time.
Salu Bazuna,
And I
everyone.
keep seeing your son. He's taller than you are,
He's
isn't he?
6'3".
My God, I remember when his son would come in the coffee shop.
Yeah, I didn't get to see you. Yeah.
His son would come in the coffee shop, and he would be so disappointed when it wasn't any
No croissants.
croissant.
He loved them cinnamon raisin croissants. Remember that? He was like a little guy.
Yeah, he
man.
was a little guy.
Man,
Now
you're doing
he's
okay. So good to see you, man.
doing great, man.
How's
How's
wife?
things going with you? She's doing fast. She's
Yeah.
standing right over there.
Oh, there she goes.
Yeah.
She's letting me borrow Vince for the day so we can tell his story on the Building
All right, well,
Belmont
you guys-
podcast.
you guys
It's good
have
seeing
See ya.
you, man.
See ya. Let's go golfing again soon.
Yeah, we love it.
So,
One thing I was going to tell you about Jonathan, he has always been one to catch somebody when they fall. And I'm talking this literally. I had my 60th birthday party at Summer and Preston's place in Mount Holly.
okay.
So they allowed me to have the party upstairs. Well, evidently I'd had a little too much to drink. So I noticed this person behind me, and it was Jonathan's. He was just right there. And I was talking to this person. I was about to fall in her lap. You hear me? There was nothing I could do to stop it. But Jonathan grabbed me from behind, stood me back up, set me down. I said, my guardian angel. My guardian angel. But
I'm not surprised by that at all.
yeah, he's a good guy.
I wouldn't have started my business. It's funny that you mentioned it was Summer Wilson and John Logan. they both knew that I had this desire to start a business, and they saw it in me even before I could see it in myself. Because where I come from, you just don't own businesses, and I mean, it's just literally not a thought. You take care of your family, and I'll tell you the story of this ring some other time. But this belonged to my grandfather. This is my entire inheritance, but I wear it every day because it reminds me of him and the man that he helped to raise me to be. And they both saw that, hey, you aren't meant to be an employee. There's something in you. And I remember I was sitting with Summer having coffee, and she said, hey, I want to bring you in to work with my company. I want to help you start your business, and I'm going to be your first client. And so I leave this coffee, and I call John Logan, and I said, John, because he's been telling me, you need to get out there, and you start your business. I said, John, I got my first client. Summer wants to bring me in to work with her company. And John says, you have your second client. Come to the gym tomorrow, and I'm going to write you a check. So John wanted to be my first. So there's a debate here who the first client actually was. I give it to both of them. And so for you to say it was John Logan, he poured into me and he created that space, and it was he and Summer and their heart and Preston that really, it's the reason we're sitting here today. I asked about legacy. I never thought about legacy until I met John and Summer and Preston. I never thought about it. It just wasn't something that I was raised to think about. And at the same time, we're not sitting here having this conversation. I don't admire your story as much or even care to share it if they didn't help to impart that in me. So all of those things that I think you made way for Jonathan made way for me, and now I'm sitting here having this conversation with you, that's all divine. That's all connected.
It's the circle of life. Circle of life. Like begets life. Like and draws like to you. And the people that you need to meet, the only thing you have to do is express a desire within your heart to do the things that has been given to you to do. Once you say, okay, it's on, people start knocking on your doors. People start coming around talking to you. And the whole 9 yards, and these are the things that happen to me. Once you take that first step and you do it in sincerity with the intent to follow through. I know too many people say, I'm fixing to do this. I want to do this. And then anytime they say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I say, what's stopping you?
Sounds like John Logan.
Yeah. What's stopping you from fulfilling your dream in this life? Because this is all there is. And it's what you make of it that makes it better for other people. So they're willing to follow you, willing to assist you. And that has been what Belmont has been for me. It's been that for me. And it's been that for Jonathan. And I hope and pray that it's that for you.
Yes, sir.
Because when we last talked, like I said, that was had to be in June.
June, July, yeah, last year.
And since that time when I had my episode, you still sounding the same way. That's that enthusiasm, that go-get-itness. You still got that same thing when we were sitting right over there talking. Your sermon is the same. Follow me. Follow me. Pick up your cross, follow me. Do as I do. Do as I do.
Vince, we're going to have more conversations. I don't want to let this end. We're coming up on an hour now, and I just really thank you for not only your time today, but all the time and the sacrifice that you invested in this community to do what you've done, because I know now that my draw to you wasn't just in your story, but understanding that your story is a part of my story, and your story made way for my story, and that I'm here today doing this because you did this, and because you were willing to bring together the community and help to create the culture of what this town is. And so I'm just want to thank you. You know, we're always sitting in someone else's sacrifice, and I want to thank you for the sacrifice that you did and what you've done for this community.
And you text me right after that, and you said, nothing is by coincidence. You remember saying that?
I do. I do.
Nothing is by coincidence. It's the grand plan. It's the grand scheme of things. Do I follow? Of course you do. Of course you do. You have no choice. You, my brother, have no choice. You don't. Could you quit right now? How would you feel if you quit right now?
Irresponsible.
All this $1,500 worth of equipment that you got, or more, or more. You can't quit because you have a calling. You've been touched. Throw that net down. Whatever else you got in your hand, throw it down. Pick up that camera and that microphone.
Yeah, look at the train getting right in our way, bringing us home. Before the train gets here, I'll tell you, the podcast is going to get the most raw and authentic version today. I just left a meeting where I was sharing some heavy things that are going on in my life and my family, and things that just honestly make me want to kind of retreat and go away. And I'm not that kind of person. That's not my personality. I run into the fight, and it's just been heavy. Yeah. And I was telling that person in confidence that, but I know that's not what God's called me to do. And I almost didn't want to have this conversation because I felt so heavy.
Well,
it's not a podcast in downtown Belmont if the train doesn't get involved.
The train is the most important part of Belmont. It was the most important part of Friday Night Live. The train would come through. We had an agreement with Norfolk Southern that they would slow down. And they would come through here and blow that horn, and all these people would be hollering and, screaming to the top of their voice. The train.
There's something about that. The train had to make an appearance.
It had to, for me.
I honestly was sitting here wondering how we were able to sit here for an hour and a half and not have it come through. But I'll tell you, like I said, I'll just be totally raw and authentic here to say that I felt really heavy about those things. But I knew, to your point, you prophesying over me like you just did to say and know, hey, you have a calling and you need to do this for a reason. I just felt real heavy, and it's not my personality to walk away, but I think the weight of it just made me feel like, not that I wanted to walk away, but I felt because of the weight I was feeling that I wouldn't do a conversation to you justice. And then I felt, in the other hand, no, maybe that's exactly what I need to walk in with, is that weight to have the best conversation with Vince. And I'm glad I did, and I'm real thankful and fortunate and blessed that I've met you.
Because let me ask you this question. Is anybody else doing what you do?
No.
In a 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius,
not that I know of.
200-mile radius?
Not that I know of, Vince.
So it's for you to do. It's for you to do. Nobody else can do it. Nobody else has what you have. And that is that personification of who you are inside. People can't help but like you. They can't help but like you, man. Like I said, it's been a year since last we talked.
Yeah.
That's where it was initiated. And now look at where you are and what you're doing and how people are opening up to you and doing things for you. And take the first step. Just take the first step.
Yes, sir.
You ain't got to take the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Somebody else has your back.
Did Summer text you before you came over here? That was who I was meeting with earlier, and it's like you are speaking to everything that we were just talking about. It's like,
really?
It's and that's why I know it's divine.
Yeah.
Because
Summer is the sweetest person. She's the sweetest girl. And Preston, It's pure gold. Preston's pure gold.
They are my. They and John Logan were my Ted Hall for you. You know that there's no reason other than God and what they saw in me to reach out and see that, hey, we can do this. And that same spirit still exists here in Belmont, and that's where I love it. Traffic is traffic or whatever, all that nonsense. It's so infinitesimal and compared to everything else.
You want to see traffic. You want to see traffic. Somebody said to me, if you do that, you're going to create all this traffic. I said, oh. What a shame.
And this is where we lost the audience. Right there is the traffic. It is a blessing. We prayed for these blessings, that the fact that we do have it. And I'm thankful. Like I said, I just can't tell you enough how now I know why this conversation needed to happen today. And there's Miss Brenda. I told Miss Brenda to come over here and make an appearance as well. But the quiet strength. I don't want to say quiet strength. She is a go-getter in her own right.
Yeah.
But thank you, Miss Brenda. I'm sure she's going to watch this later on as we watch you talking to Saul over there. But this community, I want you to close us out. What do you want to share with the community as we end this conversation? What's a message that you would like to share with them before we go?
Learn to work together. Learn to be as one. Because what? We are all one. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your gender is or nothing. We are all one. And if we can learn to walk together as one, it's progress. It's progress. To eradicate all of those bad things, those bad memories and all of that, we can work together and we can make it happen. Unfortunately, during that time, I've retired, so I ain't doing a whole lot. But, I'm willing and able.
Well, your legacy still lives on here, and the next person is next one up carrying that torch for you. And it's funny, as I look at Kelly Wood over here, her daughter Miranda Wood is now, she works with the chamber. And Kelly's been with you all for a while,
she has
right?
been with me for at least 16, 17 years.
And so
she
you've
has
known
been my right-hand person.
And you've known Miranda since she was how old?
Since she was 12. Little girl.
So it's no coincidence that Miranda grew up seeing Kelly working with you and seeing what you were doing for the community, and now she's doing what she's doing for the community. That's no coincidence. You planted those seeds, and Miranda's might listen to this and might get a little tearful, but now I'm seeing that connection, as it's no coincidence that she's doing what she's doing for the chamber now, because that's what you did for the Merchants Association. And
she has and I've told her, you have the capability to do anything you want to do. Anything you want to do. Just listen to that still small voice inside of you that says you can. It ain't saying I think I can. It's saying you can.
Well, we'll close with that because we can't get any better. But we'll have more conversations in the future.
Sounds good, man.
Thank you, Vince.
Good.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Building Belmont podcast. I'm your host, Keanu Trujillo, reminding you to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. And of course, share with a friend, share with a neighbor. We'll see you again next week as we capture more stories, create more connection, and share more information here on the Building Belmont podcast.